Hello and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Friday the 3rd of February. My name is Rachel Parker. My pronouns are she and her. I am an Anglican priest, the Diocese of Edmonton, Anglican Church of Canada, serving the parish of Dayspring Ministries, which is St. Mary's Edgerton, St. Saviour's Vermilion, and St. Thomas and Wainwright. I am glad you're here with me today. How is your day going? If you're just beginning your day, I hope that it goes really well, and I hope that you have a really good weekend. I am recording this earlier in the week because on Friday, when this is released, I will be heading to Cold Lake, Alberta, where I will be getting to serve as the rural ministry archdeacon, meeting up with the priest there at the Anglican Church and seeing that little Anglican church there. And then I get to go and do some work around the doctrine of discovery with nursing students from the University of Calgary at the Cold Lake campus. So I'm really excited about that. But I'm really also looking forward to having tomorrow or Saturday off. I haven't had a day off in a really long time. It's been a couple of weeks. Things have been really busy. So I'm really looking forward to having everything done. So I'm recording this earlier in the week on the hope that by the time you see this, I should be on the road to Cold Lake. It takes about 2.5 hours to get there. But I will also have all my work done, at least everything that has to get done for Sunday, which is busy because I have church in Wainwright and an annual meeting. And then I'm off to Vermilion in the evening for 2 different nursing home services. So it'll be busy, but I'm looking forward to having Saturday off just to read and to hang out and just relax and recuperate, refresh, retreat. One of the things I do when I want to refresh and recuperate, and I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, lots of people do lots of things, but I love to read. I read books. And I am involved with a Military Family Resource Center book club, and it's got nothing to do with work. So I get to just go and hang out with people and we talk about books. And the book that we're reading, and I have to have it finished for tonight for 6 o'clock, I only have 17 pages left, so I should be fine. It's called One for the Blackbird, One for the Crow by Olivia Hawker. And I think this is her second book. I'm trying to get the glare off there. I haven't read her first book. This isn't a book I probably would have picked up on my own, except that the book club is doing it. And I am so glad they are. From the first page, the narrative, the choice of vocabulary, the words that the author uses are absolutely incredible. She paints this beautiful scene happening in the Midwest in the sort of mid to late 1800s. And it's talking about 2 families where a tragedy happens, and 2 families who don't really like each other very much have to come together to share their resources for the winter, and how much they become really one family. And I just want to read it. There's been so much packed into it. If you're not Christian, it's not a Christian book, but if you're not Christian, you probably get so much out of it. If you are Christian, it makes you wonder if maybe the author is. There are parts of it that are just profoundly faithful without looking like it. Like if you're not Christian, you wouldn't read this and think, oh, trying to shove something down my throat. It's very, very subtle, if that's indeed what it is. And if it's not, it could just be me taking something out of it. But I just like to read this to you. This is when Beulah, the main character, has fallen off a horse and hurt herself. And she's talking about the time when she was out cold. She remembers it as a dream. And I'm going to read to you some of it. It says, I heard a sawing, rasping sound high above. I looked up and found a cutworm busy at the leaf of a beanstalk. It bit into the yielding green flesh, and the bean plant wept its fragrant sap. I could feel the beanstalk crying out with pain in helpless offense. Then the leaf fell. I had to step quickly to avoid it. I called up to the worm, don't hurt it, please. Don't hurt the plant. But where the leaf fell, the soil rose up to meet it, stretching tiny hands, white, thread-like hands that caught the leaf and held it down and drank its sap as the leaf went down into the soil, just as rain soaks into the cracks of the earth with a whisper and a sigh. Then I could hear the soil breathing out as if in relief, a deep satisfaction, and every plant around me grew a little taller. Even the beanstalk the worm had bitten grew. It reached up for a distant sun, yearning for the light's embrace. The worm moved its terrible jaws and spoke. God is said to be great, the worm told me, so great you cannot see him. But God is small, with hands like threads, and they reach for you everywhere you go. The hands touch everything, even you, even me. What falls never falls. What grows has grown 1,000 times and will live 1,000 times more. Wherever hand touches hand, the oneness comes to stay. Once God has made a thing whole, it cannot be broken again. How beautiful is that? Once God has made something whole, it cannot be broken again. That really spoke to me as I was eating my lunch, trying to get some more read before the book study tonight. I read that passage 3 or 4 times because it is so profoundly true. When I was having my book study, the Rachel Held Evans Wholehearted Faith book in Edgerton on Monday night, we were talking about this sense of that a broken heart is actually made more whole by God. And we were talking about something being broken. If something is solid, like this book, if something is solid, it's opaque, right? The light can't get through it. You can't see through it. It only has this much surface area. But if you were to break it apart or put holes in it, the surface area would actually get bigger because for every hole, there would be that much more surface on the inside, and light could get through. And we were talking about this idea that when something is broken, when a heart has been broken, and we allow God to heal that broken heart, God doesn't come in and fix it and put it back the way it was. God makes it perfect the way it is, with the breaks and the cracks and the holes in it. As a matter of fact, it's almost like God gets to permeate more of it because there's more surface area. There are more places. Sometimes you might hear the phrase that where something is broken, that's where the light gets through. There's something powerful about acknowledging that brokenness is not badness. When something breaks, we need not panic. Something good can come of it. I remember a long time ago, I went through a phase of, long before I met my husband, and I was living on my own, and I had like limited television, but I did have the early beginnings. I think it was HGTV, Home and Garden Television, but it was back in the days before they had like Love It or List It and things like that, and they had like do-it-yourself programs. And this woman was talking about what you can do with broken dishes, like china and things like that. And she'd taken all these things that were chipped and broken, and she put them in a pillowcase, and she beat the crap out of them. Not too much. She didn't pulverize them, but she broke them down. And then what she did was she had a piece of wood that had it had a dip, like it had a rim around it, and it was about yay deep. And she put in some grout on the bottom, and then she started laying these pieces of the broken teacups and things on top of it. And then when she was done, she went back through until it was all full, and she went back through and put down more grout. And then she wiped off the grout. So there was only grout in between the little pieces. And then as she did something, she used epoxy or something. And when it dried and she polished it, she had the tabletop, an outside for her back deck, a tabletop that was absolutely beautiful. This mosaic of color and pattern that came from broken things that couldn't be used again the way they were. And that just, it struck me as so incredible, like so crafty, and something I would never think to do. It's just, I am not a crafty kind of person. But it just, the idea that you could, rather than just simply throwing something away and saying it's useless, being able to repurpose something. And I love to read. I love reading books. If I had the energy, I'm so busy most of the time that by the time I can sit down with a book, I read 10 pages and fall asleep. But in the best of days, when I have some time and I'm awake, I love to read, because it's like somebody has taken all these words that fell apart from other sentences, other thoughts they've had, other ideas they've had, or things they've read, and the author takes all those broken pieces and puts them together and creates something beautiful. The way God creates something beautiful in us when we are broken, or in the relationships around us. I think I've been thinking lately about my father-in-law, who died he was buried about 3 years ago this past week. And thinking about how difficult that was, and how we all individually felt so broken. And yet when we came together at the funeral home the night before his funeral service, and we had his daughter and his son and like my husband and my sister-in-law and her spouse and all of their kids and my husband's kids, and we were gathered around, and just this sense we all had. He likes scotch, so we had a bottle of scotch propped up in the casket with him. So we took that bottle of scotch out, and everybody, even the kids, got a little wee dram of scotch, and we all said a toast and shared a toast and threw back a little bit of scotch. And in that moment of brokenness, of all of who Gary was not being with us anymore, we realized the fullness of who we had become because of Gary and his wife Joan, who died the year before. Like words coming together in a book. The people in our lives who have broken our hearts when they're gone are very much a part of what helps us to create the new thing, the beautiful thing that God creates through us as our hearts heal. Still all those broken pieces, but healing happens. So this weekend, and on my trip to Cold Lake, I'm going to do some reflecting on the brokenness of the world and the beauty that brokenness can bring. And the idea that, one day I am going to write a book. I've been saying this since I was 5 years old. Someday I'm going to write a book. And I'm going to give some thought to that idea that all of those sentences I've read and paragraphs I have heard and speeches I have seen delivered whose words have broken apart in my head and I can't remember what they said, but they're all in there, that I will be able to take all those broken sentences and all those broken things and put them into a new form that creates out of brokenness a new thing, a new entity, a new book, a new story that I got to write. So that won't happen for a while, probably after retirement or a really long holiday. But I'm going to think on that. I'm going to think on the beauty of the brokenness, especially in the wintertime, driving further north in this beautiful province, and think of all of those things that look broken that in the spring will come alive because what was once there and has died allows rebirth. God's hands reaching up into the world and sharing a new thing. So there's some thoughts for you to ponder if you wish this weekend. I will see you again on Sunday for Gospel on the Go and Monday morning for Church at Home with Rachel. God bless you and have a blessed weekend.